My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Blood dripped from my split lip onto the cracked screen as I typed the message to my sister Jessica. He hit me again. Worse this time. I'm scared. I hit send and pressed myself further into the corner of the bathroom, the only room in the apartment with a lock. Outside, I could hear Richard throwing things, his voice a roar of rage that made my entire body tremble. Mia, get out here right now! You think you can embarrass me? Make me look like a fool in front of my friends? My phone buzzed. I looked down, expecting Jessica's usual response, telling me I needed to leave, that I deserved better, all the things I already knew but couldn't seem to make myself do. Instead, the message read, "Where are you? I'm coming now." My heart stopped. The number wasn't Jessica's. I'd sent it to the wrong person. Before I could process what that meant, another message came through. Mia, I need your location. Are you safe right now? My fingers flew across the screen. I'm so sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore. The response was immediate. I'm not ignoring anything. Where are you? Something in Richard's voice changed outside the door. The anger shifted into something colder, more calculating. Mia, baby, I'm sorry. You know I didn't mean it. Open the door. Let's talk about this. I'd heard that tone before. It was worse than the yelling. It meant he was thinking, planning. My phone buzzed again. If you don't tell me where you are in the next 60 seconds, I'm calling the police and having them trace this number. I don't know why I believed him. Maybe it was the certainty in his words, the absolute command that seemed to reach through the screen. Or maybe I was just so desperate for someone, anyone, to help me that I was willing to trust a stranger. I typed out my address with trembling fingers. The response came instantly. Lock yourself in. Don't open the door for anyone but me. I'll be there in 12 minutes. How will I know it's you? I typed back. You'll know. Richard's fist slammed against the bathroom door, making me jump. Mia, stop playing games! Open this door right now, or I swear to God! Or what? I surprised myself with my own voice, raspy but steady. You'll break it down? Hit me again? Maybe this time you won't stop? The silence that followed was somehow worse than the yelling. You're going to regret this, Richard said quietly. You think you can just leave? You think anyone else would want you? You're nothing without me. Nothing. I closed my eyes against the tears. Part of me believed him. After 18 months of this, part of me actually believed him. My phone buzzed. 10 minutes. Stay strong. I didn't even know this person's name. But something about those 2 words made me sit up straighter, made me wipe the blood from my lip and look at myself in the mirror above the sink. My left eye was swelling. There was a bruise forming on my cheekbone. My blonde hair was tangled where Richard had grabbed it. But underneath all of that, I could still see the woman I used to be. The one who'd graduated top of her class. The one who'd had dreams bigger than this apartment, this life, this man who'd slowly convinced her she deserved nothing better. I'm not nothing, I whispered to my reflection. Richard's footsteps retreated from the door. I heard him on the phone, his voice smooth and charming the way it always was when he talked to anyone but me. Hey, yes, sorry about earlier. Mia's not feeling well. No, she's fine. Just needs some rest. Yeah, I'll tell her you said to feel better. He was already working on his alibi, his explanation,
The story he'd tell if anyone asked about my face.
7 minutes had passed. I heard the apartment door open and close. Richard had left. For a moment, relief flooded through me. Then reality hit. He'd be back. He always came back, usually calmer, with flowers or apologies, or promises that this time would be different. And I'd always let him back in. Not this time. Something inside me whispered. This time was different. My phone buzzed. I'm here. Black car outside your building. Are you safe to come down? I peered out the bathroom window that faced the street. There was indeed a black car below, sleek and expensive looking, nothing like the vehicles usually parked on this street. As I watched, the driver's door opened. The man who stepped out made my breath catch.
He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair and a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and even from 4 floors up, I could see the intensity in his expression as he looked up at my building. He pulled out his phone, and mine buzzed. 4th floor, right? Apartment 4C. I'd given him my address, but not the apartment number. How did you... I have resources. Are you coming down, or do I need to come up? Something about the way he phrased it, like those were the only 2 options, like he wasn't leaving until he saw for himself that I was okay, made my decision for me. I'm coming down. 2 minutes. I unlocked the bathroom door cautiously. The apartment was empty. Richard had definitely left. I grabbed my purse, my phone, and nothing else. Everything else could be replaced. Everything else was just things that tied me to this life, this version of myself I was desperate to leave behind. The stairwell was empty. My legs felt weak as I descended, my heels clicking against the concrete stairs. By the time I pushed through the building's front door, I was shaking again, but this time from adrenaline rather than fear. The man was leaning against his car, arms crossed, and when he saw me, his entire posture changed. He went very still, his eyes taking in every visible injury with an expression that started as concern and hardened into something that looked dangerously close to rage. Mia? His voice was different than I'd imagined, deeper, with an edge of controlled fury. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides. Up close, he was even more striking. His eyes were a startling gray blue, and right now they were fixed on my face with an intensity that should have frightened me, but somehow didn't. Get in the car. It wasn't a suggestion. He was already opening the passenger door. I don't even know your name, I managed to say. Charles. He waited until I slid into the passenger seat, then closed the door with careful precision and walked around to the driver's side. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Everything about this moment felt surreal. An hour ago, I'd been trapped in my bathroom, terrified. Now I was sitting in a stranger's car, letting him drive me away from the only address I'd called home for the past 1.5 years. Charles pulled into traffic with smooth confidence. Tell me where you want to go. Hotel? Hospital? Police station? My voice broke. I don't know. His jaw clenched, a muscle ticking in his cheek. The hospital, then. You need to be checked out. No! The word came out sharper than I intended. No hospitals! They'll ask questions, make reports. Richard is his name?
Charles's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Your boyfriend? I nodded, shame burning through me. What must this man think of me? Some pathetic woman who let her boyfriend beat her, who was too weak to leave, who sent desperate texts to wrong numbers. Stop, Charles said quietly. I looked at him, startled. What? Whatever you're thinking about yourself right now, stop. He glanced over at me, those gray-blue eyes seeing far too much. This isn't your fault. None of it. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. You don't know anything about me. I know you're brave enough to ask for help. I know you left instead of staying. I know you're sitting in a stranger's car right now, trusting me not to hurt you. Which means some part of you still knows how to hope. He turned his attention back to the road. That's more than enough. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I watched the familiar streets of my neighborhood give way to areas I didn't recognize. Buildings getting taller and nicer, the entire atmosphere shifting from struggling to successful. Where are we going? I finally asked. My place. I have a guest suite. You can rest, clean up, figure out your next steps without looking over your shoulder every 5 seconds. I can't just... Yes, you can. Charles pulled up to a high-rise building that screamed wealth and exclusivity. A valet appeared immediately, opening my door with a professional smile that didn't quite mask his concern when he saw my face. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to insist I could handle this myself. That I didn't need charity from a stranger, no matter how attractive or commanding he might be. But the truth was, I had nowhere else to go. Jessica was overseas for work. My parents were dead. The few friends I'd had before Richard had slowly disappeared as he'd isolated me more and more. Charles came around to my side of the car, offering his hand. After a moment's hesitation, I took it. His palm was warm, his grip steady and sure as he helped me to my feet. The lobby was all marble and modern art. A doorman nodded respectfully. Mr. Bennett. Bennett. Charles Bennett. Why did that name sound familiar? The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent. I could feel Charles watching me, his attention a physical weight. But when I glanced over at him, he was staring straight ahead, his expression unreadable. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was modern but comfortable, expensive but lived in. This wasn't just a showpiece. This was a home. The guest suite is through here. Charles led me down a hallway to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. The bed was massive, covered in what looked like Egyptian cotton. There was an ensuite bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. I'll get you some ice for your face, Charles said. There are clothes in the closet, probably too big, but better than what you're wearing. Take your time. I'll be in the kitchen when you're ready. He left before I could thank him, the door closing softly behind him. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my entire body suddenly exhausted. What was I doing here? I didn't know this man. For all I knew, I'd jumped from one danger into another. But something in my gut said I was safe. Safer than I'd been in months. I made my way to the bathroom and caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked worse than I'd thought. My eye was almost swollen shut now, the bruise on my cheekbone a vivid purple. There was dried blood at the corner of my mouth. This was the last time, I promised my reflection. The very last time I'd let anyone make me look like this.
feel like this. I stripped off my clothes and stepped into the shower, letting water as hot as I could stand pound against my skin. I washed away the blood, the tears, the smell of the apartment that had become my prison. When I finally stepped out, wrapped in a towel that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, I felt almost human again. The closet held men's dress shirts, all expensive, all far too large for me. I chose a white one that fell to mid-thigh and rolled up the sleeves. There were sweatpants, too, with a drawstring I could tighten enough to make them stay up. Charles was in the kitchen when I emerged, pressing an ice pack wrapped in a towel. He'd removed his suit jacket and tie, rolled up his shirt sleeves to reveal forearms that made my mouth go dry despite everything. "Sit," he said, nodding to one of the bar stools at the island. I obeyed, too tired to argue. He handed me the ice pack, his fingers brushing mine for just a moment. Even that brief contact sent a jolt through me that I had no business feeling. "Press that to your eye," he instructed, then turned to the refrigerator. "When's the last time you ate?" I had to think about it. "This morning, I think." His jaw tightened again, that same controlled fury I'd seen earlier. "I'm making you something. Don't argue." I watched him move around the kitchen with surprising efficiency for someone who looked like he probably had a chef. He assembled a sandwich with quick, precise movements, then poured a glass of water and set both in front of me. "Eat." The sandwich was simple: turkey and cheese and vegetables. But it tasted like the best thing I'd ever had. Or maybe I was just that hungry. Charles leaned against the counter across from me, arms crossed, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Thank you," I said between bites. "For everything. I'll be out of your hair as soon as I figure out where to go." "You're not going anywhere tonight." His tone left no room for argument. "Tomorrow we'll deal with practicalities. Tonight, you rest." "You don't even know me. Why are you helping me?" Charles was quiet for a long moment. "Do you remember that message you sent?" "He hit me again. Worse this time. I'm scared." 4 sentences that told me everything I needed to know. Someone needed help. I could help. That's all the reason I need. Most people would have ignored it, or told me to call the police. I'm not most people. He pushed off from the counter and moved closer. Close enough that I could see the flecks of darker blue in his gray eyes. And something tells me you're not either. That man, Richard, he's been telling you that you're weak, that you need him, that you're nothing on your own. He's wrong. Tears welled up again. I was so tired of crying, but I couldn't seem to stop. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Charles reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and gently tilted my chin up so I had to meet his eyes. "You survived. You reached out for help. You left. Those aren't the actions of a weak woman, Mia. Those are the actions of someone who knows her worth, even if she's forgotten it for a while." His thumb brushed across my uninjured cheek, the touch so gentle it made my chest ache. When was the last time someone had touched me with anything but anger? When was the last time I'd felt safe with a man? I should pull away, should put distance between us. This was too much, too fast, too confusing in the aftermath of everything that had happened today. But I didn't move. "Who are you, Charles Bennett?" A slight smile tugged at his lips. "CEO of Bennett Industries, workaholic, notoriously demanding boss, coffee snob, and, as of today,
Your personal protection detail. Bennett Industries. That's why the name had sounded familiar. He wasn't just wealthy, he was one of the wealthiest men in the state, running a tech empire that had revolutionized data security. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. He stepped back, and I immediately missed his warmth. Finish eating, then get some sleep. Everything will be clearer in the morning. I wanted to argue, but exhaustion was crashing over me in waves. I finished the sandwich, drank the water, and let Charles guide me back to the guest suite. I'm right across the hall, he said from the doorway. If you need anything, and I mean anything, come get me. After he left, I climbed into the enormous bed, surrounded by softness and silence and safety. For the first time in 18 months, I fell asleep without fear. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I didn't recognize, and a moment of panic before yesterday came rushing back. The fight. The text. Charles. My phone was on the nightstand where I'd left it. 47 missed calls from Richard. 23 text messages that progressed from apologetic to angry to threatening to apologetic again. The most recent one made my stomach turn. I know you're with someone. I'm going to find out who. And when I do, you'll both regret it. There was a soft knock on the door. Mia, are you awake? Charles's voice. I pulled the blanket up to my chin. Yes. He entered carrying a tray with coffee, orange juice, and what looked like a breakfast sandwich. He was already dressed for work, another perfectly tailored suit that made him look like he'd walked out of a magazine spread. How's your eye? I touched it gingerly. Still swollen, still painful, but better than last night. It's okay. He set the tray on the bed and sat on the edge, far enough away to be respectful, but close enough that I could smell his cologne. We need to talk about next steps. I nodded, wrapping my hands around the coffee mug for something to hold on to. I need to find an apartment, get my things from the old place, figure out a restraining order, maybe. You're not going back there. Charles's tone was absolute. Not alone, not with police escort, not ever. Whatever you need, we'll have movers get it. I can't afford movers. I can barely afford rent. I don't even have a job anymore. Richard convinced me to quit 6 months ago, said he wanted to take care of me. The bitterness in my voice was sharp. Turns out what he really wanted was to make sure I was completely dependent on him. Charles pulled out his phone and started typing. What's your field? Marketing and communications. I was with Turner and Associates before Richard. Good firm. He continued typing. Consider yourself employed. My company needs a communications director. The position just opened up. I stared at him. You can't just give me a job. I can do whatever I want. It's my company. He looked up from his phone, those gray-blue eyes intense. And before you argue, this isn't charity. I've been looking to fill this position for 3 months. You're qualified. You need work. Problem solved. I need to interview. Prove I can do the job. Fine. Interview question 1. Can you write compelling copy that makes technical information accessible to general audiences? Yes. Question 2. Can you manage a team and meet deadlines? Yes. Question 3. Can you start Monday? Despite everything, I felt a smile tug at my lips. This is the worst interview process I've ever seen.
But are you hired? I should say no. Should insist on doing this the right way, on not accepting help from someone who'd basically picked me up off the street. But pride was a luxury I couldn't afford right now. Yes. Thank you. Good. He stood, sliding his phone back into his pocket. I have meetings all day, but I've arranged for building security to be notified about Richard. If he shows up here, they'll handle it. Don't open the door for anyone. My assistant will be by this afternoon with some clothes for you. Your size, unless you want to keep wearing my shirts. I looked down at the white dress shirt I was still wearing. These are actually pretty comfortable. Something flickered in Charles's eyes. There and gone so fast, I almost missed it. Heat. Interest. Want. Keep it then, he said, his voice slightly rougher than before. I have plenty. After he left, I ate breakfast and tried to process everything that had happened in less than 24 hours. My life had completely changed. I'd gone from trapped and terrified to sitting in a penthouse with a job and a stranger who seemed determined to protect me. It should have felt too good to be true. It probably was too good to be true. But for now, for today, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, things were finally going to be okay. Charles' assistant arrived at 2. Her name was Margaret, she was probably in her 50s, and she took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug without saying a word. Mr. Bennett briefed me, she said when she pulled back. I've brought you some clothes, toiletries, everything you should need for the next few days. He also asked me to give you this. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a credit card with my name on it and a note in strong, slanted handwriting. For whatever you need, not charity. Consider it an advance on your salary. C. I can't accept this, I told Margaret. She gave me a look that was pure maternal exasperation. That man doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do. If he gave you the card, he wants you to have it. Use it. Make him happy. Trust me, it's easier that way. The clothes she'd brought fit perfectly. Professional, but comfortable. I showered, dressed in black pants and a soft blue blouse, and actually looked at myself in the mirror without flinching. The bruises were still there. The swelling hadn't completely gone down. But underneath the evidence of yesterday's violence, I could see myself again. The real me. The one who'd been buried under Richard's abuse and manipulation. I spent the rest of the afternoon exploring Charles's apartment with his permission via text. The living room had a wall of books, everything from classic literature to modern business theory to what looked like a complete collection of detective novels. The kitchen was a chef's dream. There was a home office with 3 monitors and technology I couldn't even identify. And everywhere, small signs that Charles Bennett wasn't just a ruthless CEO. A framed photo of him with an elderly woman who had to be his grandmother. A coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Boss." A bookmarked copy of a book on sustainable business practices. He was human, complicated, real, and dangerously attractive. I was examining his book collection when I heard the front door open. Charles walked in, loosening his tie, and stopped when he saw me. Those clothes look better on you than my shirt did. Though I have to say, I was getting fond of seeing you in my things. Heat flooded my cheeks. Margaret has impeccable taste. I pay her well for it. He moved into the kitchen, shrugging out of his suit jacket. How was your day? The question was so normal, so domestic, that it made my chest tight. Quiet. Peaceful. I read some of your books. Hope you don't mind. Read whatever you want. This is your home now, for as long as you need it. He started pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. I'm making dinner. I hope you like pasta. You cook? My grandmother insisted I learn. Said no grandson of hers was going to be helpless in the kitchen. His expression softened when he mentioned her. She passed 2 years ago, but I still use her recipes. I watched him cook, the efficient movements, the casual competence. He'd rolled up his sleeves again, and I found myself staring at his forearms with entirely inappropriate thoughts. Why are you really doing this? I asked quietly. The job, the apartment, all of it. You could have just called the police yesterday. Let them handle it. Charles stopped chopping vegetables and looked at me. You want the truth? Please. When I was 16, my mother finally left my father. He'd been abusing her for years. I was too young, too powerless to stop it. By the time I was old enough to do something, she was too beaten down to leave. He returned to chopping, his movements more aggressive now. She finally did it one day when he was at work, packed what she could carry and took me and my little sister. We lived in shelters for 6 months before she got back on her feet. Charles, I swore then that if I ever had the power to help someone in that situation, I would. No questions, no hesitation. Yesterday, I got that chance. He looked up at me, his eyes fierce. So that's why. Because my mother needed someone to help her, and barely anyone did. Because I can. Because you deserve it. I crossed the kitchen and did something I probably shouldn't have. I hugged him. Just wrapped my arms around him and pressed my face against his chest, breathing in his scent, feeling his warmth and solidity and strength. After a moment's surprise, his arms came around me, one hand coming up to cradle the back of my head. We stood like that for a long moment, not speaking, just existing in the safety of each other's presence. Thank you, I against his shirt. Don't thank me yet. You haven't tasted my cooking. I laughed, surprised that I could. Dinner was delicious. We ate at his dining table overlooking the city lights, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about Bennett Industries, the challenges of running a tech empire, his vision for the future. I told him about my dreams before Richard, my love of marketing, my hope to someday work on campaigns that actually mattered. You'll get that chance, Charles said with absolute certainty, at my company or somewhere else. You're going to be extraordinary, Mia. I can already tell. My phone buzzed. I'd been ignoring it all day, but this time I glanced at the screen, and my blood went cold. What is it? Charles was alert immediately, reading my expression. Richard, he says he's outside the building. He wants to talk. Charles was already moving, pulling out his phone. I'm calling security. No, wait. I stood, my heart pounding. Maybe I should talk to him. End this properly, otherwise he'll never stop. Absolutely not. Charles's voice was hard. You don't owe him anything. Not closure, not conversation. Nothing. But, Mia. He took my shoulders gently, making me look at him. This is how it starts. He apologizes, says he just wants to talk, makes you feel guilty for leaving. Before you know it, you're back in that apartment, back in that bathroom, texting wrong numbers because you're terrified and trapped. He was right. I knew he was right. But 18 months of conditioning was hard to shake. I feel guilty, like I'm abandoning him. He's manipulated you into feeling that way. It's what abusers do. Charles's thumbs brushed against my shoulders, grounding me. You're not responsible for his actions. You're not responsible for his feelings. You're only responsible for your own safety and your own healing. My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. Charles plucked it from my hand and answered the call, putting it on speaker. "This is Charles Bennett. Mia doesn't want to talk to you." There was a moment of shocked silence. Then Richard's voice came through, smooth and dangerous. "And who exactly are you?" "Someone with significantly more resources and significantly less patience than you're used to dealing with." Charles's tone was ice. "I have your name, your address, your employment history, and photographs of what you did to Mia. If you contact her again, if you come near her again, if you so much as think about her too hard, I will destroy you. Professionally, personally, completely. Am I making myself clear?" "You can't threaten me. I'll sue you for—" "With what money? I've already spoken to your employer. Turns out they're very interested in the domestic violence allegations against you. I've also filed a restraining order on Mia's behalf. It's being processed as we speak. You have no power here. You have no leverage. You have nothing." Charles paused. "But I do. I have everything. And I will use all of it to make sure you never hurt another woman again." He ended the call and blocked the number, then looked at me. "Are you okay?" I was shaking, but not from fear this time. From relief. From gratitude. From something else I wasn't ready to name. "How did you do all that in one day?" "I told you. Resources." He handed my phone back. "He won't bother you again. And if he does, he'll regret it." "You can't just— You're not my bodyguard, Charles. You're my boss now. This is too much." "It's not nearly enough." The intensity in his eyes took my breath away. "Do you have any idea what it did to me, reading that text yesterday? Knowing someone was hurting you? I've met you once, Mia, but I can already tell you're someone worth protecting. Someone worth fighting for." "You don't know me well enough to say that." "Then let me get to know you better." He stepped closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "Have dinner with me tomorrow. A real dinner, not me cooking in my kitchen, but an actual date. If you want to, no pressure. Just two people getting to know each other." My heart was racing. This was too fast, too much, too confusing. I'd just left an abusive relationship yesterday. I shouldn't be thinking about dating anyone, especially not my new boss, who also happened to be a billionaire who'd rescued me from my bathroom. But when I looked at Charles, I didn't see my boss or a billionaire or my rescuer. I saw a man who'd shown me more kindness in 24 hours than Richard had in 18 months. A man who'd stood up for me, protected me, made me feel safe. "Yes," I heard myself say. "I'd like that." His smile was devastating. "Good. Now finish your wine and tell me more about these marketing campaigns that actually matter." The next 2 weeks were a blur of new beginnings. I started at Bennett Industries on Monday, and despite my fears that I'd been hired out of pity, it quickly became clear that Charles had been telling the truth. The communications department was a mess. The messaging was inconsistent, and they desperately needed someone to take charge. I threw myself into the work with an intensity that surprised me. Every successful campaign, every positive piece of press coverage, every small victory felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that Richard had tried to take. Charles kept his distance at work, professional and courteous, treating me exactly like any other executive. But at home, in his penthouse that I was still living in, We fell into an easy rhythm. Dinners together, conversations that stretched late into the night, comfortable silences while we both worked on our laptops in the living room. And every Friday night, we had our official date. The first one was dinner at an exclusive restaurant where Charles knew the owner. I wore a black dress that Margaret had insisted I needed, and when Charles saw me, the look in his eyes made my knees weak. "You're beautiful," he'd said simply, offering his arm. Over dinner, we talked about everything. My childhood, his rise in the business world, our hopes and fears and dreams. He made me laugh, made me think, made me feel like I mattered. The second date was a private tour of an art gallery. Charles walked beside me, his hand occasionally brushing the small of my back, as he told me stories about the artists and pieces. When we stopped in front of a painting of a woman emerging from darkness into light, he leaned close and whispered, "That's you. That's what I see when I look at you." The third date was a concert, classical music that moved me to tears. Charles held my hand through the entire performance, his thumb tracing patterns on my palm that sent shivers up my spine. After each date, he walked me to my door, the guest suite that was starting to feel more like mine than any place I'd lived before. And each time he kissed my cheek and said goodnight, never pushing for more, always the perfect gentleman. It was driving me crazy. Because the truth was, I was falling for him. Fast and hard and completely. Every smile, every touch, every moment of kindness and strength and humor. I was falling and I didn't know how to stop it. Didn't know if I wanted to. On the fourth Friday, we didn't go out. Charles had a late meeting that ran even later, and I'd ordered dinner and was reading in the living room when he finally came home at 9. "I'm sorry," he said immediately, looking exhausted and rumpled in a way I'd never seen. His tie was loose, his hair slightly messed up like he'd been running his hands through it. "I completely lost track of time." "It's okay. I saved you some food." "You're an angel." He collapsed onto the couch beside me, closer than he'd normally sit, and I could feel the heat of him along my side. "Tell me about your day. I need to hear something that isn't quarterly projections and board members arguing." I told him about the new campaign I was developing, about the team meeting that had gone surprisingly well, about Margaret catching me eating cake directly from the box and pretending not to notice. Charles listened, his eyes never leaving my face. And somewhere in the middle of my story about a hilarious typo in a press release, his hand found mine. It was such a simple thing. Fingers intertwining. Palm against palm. But it felt monumental. "Mia." My name was rough in his voice. "I need to tell you something." My heart hammered. "Okay." "I'm trying very hard to do this right. To give you space and time to heal. To not rush you or push you or make you feel pressured. But I need you to know that this, us, it's not just about helping you. It stopped being just about that the moment you walked into my kitchen wearing my shirt and looking at me like I was someone worth trusting. Charles, I'm falling for you. Probably already fallen. And I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything because of what happened. I don't want you to confuse gratitude with anything else. But I need you to know where I stand. Because I can't keep pretending I'm not thinking about you every moment of every day." I turned to face him fully, my hand still in his. "Do you want to know what I think about?" He nodded, not speaking. "I think about how safe I feel with you. How you make me laugh. How you challenge me at work and comfort me at home. How you've never once made me feel weak or stupid or worthless.
I reached up with my free hand to touch his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw. I think about how I'm falling for you too. How it terrifies me and thrills me and feels nothing like anything I've felt before. Mia. My name was a prayer. Kiss me, Charles. Please. Kiss me like you mean it. He did. His mouth met mine with a gentleness that quickly turned to heat. His hand came up to cup my face, careful of the bruises that had finally faded. I melted into him, into the kiss, into the feeling of being wanted and cherished and safe. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I need you to be sure. Because once we cross this line, I'm all in. Completely. I don't do halfway. I'm sure. And I was. More sure than I'd been about anything in years. I'm so sure. Thank God. He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I lost myself in the sensation of his mouth on mine, his hands in my hair, his body solid and real against me. We didn't make it to my bedroom. We barely made it to his. And when he laid me down on his bed, when he looked at me like I was something precious and powerful and perfect, I knew I'd found something I hadn't even known I was looking for. Home. Safety. Love. The next morning, I woke up wrapped in Charles's arms, sunlight streaming through his bedroom windows. He was already awake, watching me with an expression that made my heart skip. Morning, I whispered. Best morning of my life. He kissed my forehead. I have a meeting in 2 hours, but I'm seriously considering canceling it. Don't you dare. I have a meeting too. Our departments are presenting that joint campaign proposal, remember? Right. The one where we get to pretend we're just colleagues and not people who are... He paused. What are we, Mia? I thought about it. About how fast this had all happened, how unconventional our entire relationship was. And I realized I didn't care about any of that. We're together. We're real. We're whatever we want to be. I want to be yours. The simplicity of the statement undid me. Completely and exclusively yours. Then you are. We made it to our meetings on time, but barely. And throughout the presentation, every time Charles looked at me, I saw the promise in his eyes. The same promise that was in my heart. This was just the beginning. 3 months later, I moved my things into Charles's bedroom officially. Not that I'd been sleeping in the guest room anyway, but making it permanent felt significant. Margaret helped me organize everything, giving me knowing smiles the entire time. I knew from day one, she told me. The way he looked at you when he brought you home? I've worked for that man for 12 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone like that. Richard had tried to contact me twice more, once through a friend, once through my old work email. Each time, Charles had handled it with the same icy efficiency, making it crystal clear that I was protected, that I was claimed, that I was his. And I was, completely. But I was also my own. I'd rebuilt myself in these months, found my strength, proven my worth at work through results, not through any favoritism from Charles. If anything, he was harder on me than anyone else, pushing me to be better, to think bigger, to claim my place in the company through merit. It made me love him even more. We were lying in bed one Saturday morning, lazy and content, when Charles propped himself up on one elbow and looked at me with unusual seriousness.
What would you say if I asked you to marry me?
My heart stopped. Are you asking me?
Not yet. I'm asking what you'd say if I did.
I thought about it. Thought about the woman I'd been, texting desperate pleas to the wrong number. Thought about the woman I was now, strong and successful and so deeply in love I could barely stand it. I'd say yes, I whispered. I'd say yes in a heartbeat. Charles smiled, that devastating smile that still made my knees weak.
Good to know.
But Charles, if you're going to propose, actually propose.
Don't make me wait too long. He laughed and pulled me closer. Noted. 2 weeks later, we were at dinner with his sister and her family. I'd met them before, and they'd welcomed me with open arms, treating me like I'd always been part of their lives. His sister, Rebecca, was funny and warm and made it her mission to embarrass Charles at every opportunity. "So," she said, grinning at me over dessert, "has my brother done anything ridiculously romantic lately? He's been weirdly happy. It's unsettling." "I'm sitting right here," Charles protested. "We know. That's what makes it fun." Rebecca turned back to me. "Seriously though, Mia, we're so glad you're here. He's different with you. Better." "Stop trying to make me cry," I told her, but I was smiling. After dinner, Charles drove us to the overlook where the city spread out below like a carpet of lights. We sat on the hood of his car, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me. "My mother would have loved you," he said quietly. "She always told me to find someone strong, someone who knew their own worth, someone who could stand beside me, not behind me. I wish I could have met her. She'd have called you daughter within 5 minutes of meeting you. Probably would have shown you all my embarrassing childhood photos." He shifted, turning to face me. "Mia." Something in his tone made me sit up straighter. "Yes?" He slid off the hood of the car and, to my shock, dropped to one knee. "Oh my God." "I had a whole speech planned," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "About how you changed my life. About how you're the strongest, bravest, most incredible woman I've ever met. About how I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. But standing here, looking at you, all I can think is how lucky I am that you sent that text to the wrong number." Tears were streaming down my face. "Charles." "Mia Harrison, will you marry me? Will you let me spend forever proving that you deserve every good thing the world has to offer? Will you build a life with me, a family with me, an empire with me?" I slid off the hood and dropped to my knees in front of him, taking his face in my hands. "Yes. Yes to all of it. Yes forever." He kissed me then, deep and sure and perfect. And when he pulled back to slip the ring on my finger, I saw tears in his eyes too. "I love you," he said. "I loved you when you were broken. I love you now that you're whole. I'll love you through everything that comes next." "I love you too." The words felt too small for what I felt, but they were true. So deeply, completely true. We sat on that overlook for hours, planning our future, talking about a wedding, about kids maybe, someday, about growing Bennett Industries together, about traveling, about building a life that was ours, on our terms. And when we finally drove home, to the penthouse that was ours now, not just his, I thought about that terrified woman in the bathroom, typing a desperate text with shaking hands. She'd been so scared, so broken, so certain she was nothing. But she'd been wrong. She'd been everything. She'd been brave enough to ask for help, strong enough to leave,
open enough to trust, worthy enough to love and be loved in return. She'd been me, and I'd become so much more. Charles carried me over the threshold of our home, and I laughed at the old-fashioned gesture. But as he set me down and kissed me in the entryway, with the city lights twinkling through the windows and our entire future spread out before us, I understood what he was saying without words. Every ending was a beginning. Every wrong number could lead to the right person. Every moment of pain could be the first step towards something beautiful. I had sent a text to the wrong number and found exactly who I was meant to find. Did you enjoy the story? Do you want a part 2? What do you think of the ending? Let me know in the comments. Also, please comment which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.